Hello and welcome to my official WWE Money in the Bank predictions video. Yesterday I uploaded all of the match simulations on WWE 2K19 and I'll be having a little bit of a friendly competition with the game over who can predict more matches correctly. So make sure you subscribe so that you can tune in tomorrow to listen to my Money in the Bank review and also find out who won the battle of man versus machine. So I'm going to go through the matches in the same order that I uploaded them yesterday, which is bottom to top order on WWE.com, which is usually roughly indicative of importance. Not necessarily the order they'll go on the show, but importance to WWE. So we're going to start off with the SmackDown Tag Team Championships match between the newly crowned champions Daniel Bryan and Rowan and the challengers the Usos, who Daniel Bryan and Rowan just beat to be crowned the new champions because the titles were vacated. The game, well no, I'll go with me first. I'm predicting Daniel Bryan and Rowan to retain. A couple of reasons. First of all, I know we've got this wildcard rule in effect, but the Usos are on Raw. Why would you have the SmackDown tag titles on someone who's on Raw? I feel like that makes it a bit transparent. The second reason is Daniel Bryan and Rowan only just won the tag titles, and I believe they cut a WWE.com exclusive interview saying they were going to introduce new championships like Daniel Bryan did with the WWE title. So they're probably going to introduce those at Money in the Bank if they haven't already. I'm not always great at keeping up to date with actually watching Raw and SmackDown, but I do read the results and I didn't see any mention of new championships, so they'll probably unveil them at Money in the Bank, so then there's no point in them losing them because WWE have just put that money, which granted it might not be a great deal of money in the grand scheme of things what WWE is worth, but they're not a fan of just flushing money down the toilet, I don't believe. So I don't think they're going to get new championships made just to lose them immediately and them never appear on TV, although they did that with the Rock ones, so maybe they would, but I'm going to go with Daniel Bryan and Rowan to win. Up next, the game, all over the place. The game is predicting the Usos to win, so already a point of disagreement between myself and the game. Now, up next, we have the Cruiserweight Championship between Davari versus Tony Nese. I'm not actually sure how to say his first name. I don't watch a lot of 205 Live, so I've not really heard it said in recent times. I'm going with Tony Nese to retain. Again, same sort of logic really as saying that Daniel Bryan and Rowan have only just won the titles. He's only just won the title at WrestleMania. Unless they were desperate to get the title on Davari and they didn't want to do a heel-to-heel swap, and that's why Tony Nese has had a short reign. But Davari doesn't strike me as the sort that they'd be desperate to get the title on once they've got it off Buddy Murphy. So I think Tony Nese is going to hold on to the title here and keep it for a little while. I'm not sure who I've got in mind for taking it off him yet, but I'm sure when the match comes up, I'll be like, yep, this is the one. So at the moment, I don't get that feeling. I feel like Tony Nese is retaining. The game, once again being contrarian, picked Davari to win. So that's 2 matches and 2 disagreements thus far. Now, I'm actually going to skip over the Samoa Joe versus Rey Mysterio match for the time being. I'm going to cover that last, and there is a reason which will become apparent, because it kind of might spoil some of my other predictions. So let me put a little mark on my piece of paper to remind me to come back to this. Never mind, my pen's not working. Okay, up next is the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. I am just going to pick the obvious answer. I feel like this is very swervable, but I'm going to pick the obvious answer and say Drew McIntyre is going to win. I'm kind of voting with my heart as well as my head a little bit here. I really want Drew to win. I really want him to become Universal Champion. That's one thing that has been pointed out, is the last 2 men's Money in the Bank contracts have been cashed in unsuccessfully. So that near enough guarantees that this year's winner is going to become Universal or WWE Champion. And I really want it to be Drew. I feel like he thoroughly deserves it. I think he's everything WWE should be looking for in a main event world champion player. And I also think the fans will accept it. So it's best of both worlds. Pull the trigger. The only thing that could go against that is Drew is more than capable of getting into that picture and winning the world title believably without Money in the Bank. But that hasn't stopped them having people like Braun Strowman, who was in that position last year. Hasn't stopped them having Randy Orton win it. Hasn't stopped them having John Cena win it. So just because someone could get into the world title picture without Money in the Bank doesn't mean they won't win it, as evidenced by the past. So I'm going with Drew McIntyre. The game is actually went with Ali, formerly known as Mustafa Ali, who I still like to call Mustafa Ali because I hate this name dropping thing they've got going on at the moment. So the game went with Ali, which is an interesting pick. Actually could see a storyline coming out of that because obviously Kofi took Ali's spot. Excuse me. Kofi took Ali's spot in the Elimination Chamber when Ali was injured. And that led to this whole Kofi Mania situation. So maybe Ali could win it and then turn heel, being jealous of Kofi taking his spot. I don't know. Can Ali play a heel? Who knows? We'd find out, wouldn't we, if that happened. I don't think it will, though. I'm sticking with Drew. Up next, the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Again, I'm going kind of obvious here. I do feel like there's a last-minute curveball that's been thrown in. Since I recorded the match simulation, by the way, that match simulation had Alexa Bliss in it. She has since been replaced with Nikki Cross in the match because she's not cleared to compete, which I'll discuss in a second. So that's why what you're watching on screen at the moment features Alexa Bliss when she's not going to be in the match tonight. I'm going with Bayley to win. There's a lot of rumours going around that Bayley's going to win and potentially cash in the same night on Becky Lynch after one of her title matches, presumably the SmackDown one. And potentially either turn heel or just create an interesting dynamic where it's face versus face, but they're really not happy with each other. So yeah, I can buy into that. I'm going to go with Bayley to win. Now my possible outsider odds is if this injury, I feel like they've been a bit like, oh, not cleared to compete, not cleared to compete with Alexa Bliss, and I feel like they should know. And they're playing with it a little bit. So this could be a work. And if this is a work, Nikki Cross could actually win the Money in the Bank and put us in a situation where Alexa Bliss says, well, she was just substituting for me. I'm Miss Money in the Bank. And that becomes a bit of a story. And catapults Nikki Cross right up the card, which is where she deserves to be. So I'd be interested to see that. I don't think they're going to do anything that interesting. I don't know whether the Alexa Bliss situation's a work or a shoot. But I'm going to stick with Bayley. But I'd love to see the Nikki Cross thing play out. The game picked Ember Moon, which again, I would not be mad about Ember Moon winning Money in the Bank and potentially the Women's Championship at some point within the next year. That would actually be really good. So I'd be behind that, but I'm sticking with my pick of Bayley. Up next, we've got Lacey Evans challenging Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship. Now, I feel like it's the women's situation, since we just talked about Women's Money in the Bank, the women's situation, a lot kind of depends on match order, because we don't know going into things what order all the matches are going to be in. But whoever faces Becky second probably has a better chance of beating her, obviously, because they can beat her and keep Becky looking strong, especially if the matches are back-to-back or something like that, like Seth Rollins did with Cena and Sting. Although Seth lost the first one and won the second one in that situation, so go figure. But yeah, that would be a way of getting one of the titles off Becky without her looking too weak, would be to have her put up a great effort in both matches, win the first one but lose the second one. So if it went Charlotte versus Becky and Becky squeaked out a victory and then Lacey Evans came straight out, I could see them putting the title on Lacey Evans. However, I do think it's a lot more likely that Becky Lynch is going to retain against Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans debuted, she did the Royal Rumble, then she walked up and down the ramp for months, and now she's finally getting into a storyline straight for the title. They don't tend to put the title on people in that urgent kind of situation where it's immediately into the title situation. So I'm going to go with Becky Lynch. The game, for the first time, agrees with me. But Becky actually won by DQ because Lacey Evans used brass knucks. I mean, right in front of the referee, not even trying to be subtle. I don't think she's going to throw away the victory quite like that unless it's some sort of team up between her and Charlotte and she throws away her match to get the SmackDown title onto Charlotte and then uses that to get herself a rematch and to try and get both titles, I guess, or something like that. Or she gets disqualified by accident because Charlotte tries to help her and the referee sees it. I don't know. It could happen, but I really do think Becky Lynch is just going to outright beat her. Next, we have Miz versus Shane in a steel cage. I feel like this is the end. I mean, at WrestleMania, I would have been, if I'd have done my predictions on time, I would have definitely picked Miz to win. There's no doubt in my mind that I thought Miz was going to win, and they pulled a bit of a swerve, a bit of a fast one. But they've continued the feud, and now it's in a cage. Yes, there's still the potential for a screwy finish, like a double dropout, or one out the door, one over the top, or something like that. But I do feel like this is the moment for Miz to really get revenge on Shane McMahon, pick up the win, and move on from this storyline. So I'm going to pick The Miz, and the game agrees, so not a lot else to be said there. Up next, Roman Reigns versus Elias. I don't know what you say here. Never bet against Roman Reigns, especially when it's not a title situation. Like, there's no consideration of whether they want to put the title on him. He's probably going to win. Like, Elias isn't there to pick up loads of huge victories. He's a hugely entertaining character, and his popularity as a face or a heel isn't diminished at all by wins and losses. It's just his segments are what make him popular. His matches, it doesn't matter. He could lose every match and he'd still be super popular. So yeah, Roman Reigns is going to win this one. That's my call. The game agrees. It's hard to make an argument the other way, to be honest. I mean, unless they're going to carry on this Shane McMahon Roman thing, or Drew gets involved. You know, there's screwy ways that Elias could win, but the likelihood is that Roman Reigns wins. Probably even with interference coming out of his ears, he'll still win. Up next, the WWE Championship match. Kevin Owens against Kofi Kingston. Now, let me preface this. I don't know how you're actually supposed to pronounce that, but by saying that I want Kevin Owens to win this match, because I just prefer Kevin Owens. I love the New Day as a unit, but Kofi as a singles, as WWE Champion, it's been good, don't get me wrong, I've been entertained by it, but I'd just rather see Kevin Owens in that position. I love Kevin Owens. That said, I do think Kofi is going to retain. Again, the same argument as the Daniel Bryan and Rowan and the Tony Nese argument from before. And I didn't make it in Becky Lynch's case, but she's also only just won the title at WrestleMania. So, the same argument. There's a lot of new champions in WWE at the moment, like freshly crowned champions. And I'm not a fan of flip-flopping the belt, so I tend to side for the first few pay-per-view defences with the champion. And I think they've done a great job of building Kofi up to be a credible world champion, from just being a popular choice to being a genuine, believable world champion. So I don't think they're going to take the belt off him and undo that work at the moment. So I'm picking Kofi. The game also picked Kofi to win. So again, no dispute there, nothing else to add. The next title match that we're going to cover, the next match in general, is the Universal Championship between AJ Styles challenging Seth Rollins, who again has only just won the title at WrestleMania. And again, that's why I think he's going to retain. And this is a lot of title retentions, and that'll play into another prediction shortly. But, yeah, I just think Seth's going to retain here. Like, AJ doesn't need the Universal title. I mean, the Universal title could do with some stability, because even though it's been on the same guy for ages, it's barely been on TV, so people haven't associated that title with successful defenses, if you get what I mean. Even though it stayed on the same guy for what, a couple of years almost total combined, it's barely been defended, so it's not got a lot of successful defenses under its belt, which I think is important at the moment. So I think Seth retains. Also, Seth just beat Brock. Still fresh in people's minds that Brock beat AJ. I feel like people expect Seth to beat AJ, and it makes the most sense in terms of where both their characters are within kayfabe at the moment. I think that makes most sense. The game also agrees. So, whoa, what, 5 in a row? I mean, the method was different for Becky Lynch and Lacey Evans, but 5 matches in a row now, we've agreed. It's pretty crazy. Moving on to the SmackDown Women's Championship, and again, a lot of this depends on match card order. But I'm going to pick Becky Lynch to retain here, and the reason I'm going to pick that is because this is a big match. This is 2/3 of the WrestleMania main event. Now, obviously, Ronda Rousey was a big part of that because she's got massive mainstream appeal. So she was a big part of why the women main evented. But make no mistake, Becky Lynch was the most popular one in the WWE fans' eyes. Forget the mainstream for a second. She was who they wanted in the main event, and Charlotte is who management wanted in the main event. So you had like the general public were there for Rousey, management were there for Charlotte, and the fans were there for Becky Lynch. So they were two big parts of that trio. It wasn't one person catapulting that into the main event. The whole match was what made it the main event. So with that said, this could feature pretty high up the card. It could even close the show. I think it's definitely going to come after the women's Money in the Bank match, and we could potentially see a cash-in after this one if Bayley does win, like I'm predicting. That's something I'd like to see, because it potentially moves Becky away from Charlotte. As much as they do tend to work well together, the last woman standing match, was that at Evolution? I think it was just brilliant. I really enjoyed that match. But I think it's time for them to take a break from each other, and then they can come back and revisit it later. So what better way than to transition into another horsewoman? So yeah, I think Becky could win, and it could come after the Money in the Bank match, and we could see a Bayley cash in. So I've said that. So if that happens, I'm counting that as a prediction. Absolutely. The game actually thinks Charlotte Flair is going to win, which again, if this match goes back to back, or if Lacey Evans puts a beat down on Becky after the match, or even if both of them do, and then the Charlotte-Becky match comes later in the card, they could keep Becky looking strong and still have Charlotte win back the SmackDown Women's title. I do think Becky's a lot more likely to lose the SmackDown title than the Raw title, not just because of what I said about Lacey Evans being new, but also because I do feel like Becky is going to settle down eventually when this whole Becky 2-belt story is finished on Raw. And I had that feeling that they were going to use this belt unification, Becky winning the Rumble, to move her to Raw before the whole Becky and Seth relationship came out. But that's just another sort of argument for it, is, you know, obviously it'd help two of their top stars be happy being on the same show, which I don't know if they really care about that these days, but with the top stars I think they do. It's all the lowly stars, they couldn't care less if they're happy. So yeah, I do think Charlotte's a lot more likely to win her than Lacey Evans, but I'm still siding with Becky Lynch, but the game's picked Charlotte. Now, back to Samoa Joe defending the US title against Rey Mysterio. The reason why I wanted to leave this one to last isn't because I think it will main event or because it's the most significant match on the card. It's because of why I've picked my winner. And I picked my winner, I picked Rey Mysterio, and Rey Mysterio isn't the favourite to win this match, and before I did all my predictions, I was thinking Samoa Joe. But the WWE has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 championship matches on this card, and I've got the other 6 being retained. And I just don't think it's very likely that they'll do 7 championship matches and not a single one will change hands. And after looking through, I think this is the most likely to change. It's the longest reigning champion. That's crazy. Samoa Joe's the longest reigning champion, I think, in main roster WWE at the moment, actually, because the Raw tag titles aren't being defended, but they were only won at Mania as well. Joe went into Mania as US champion. Oh, Finn Balor's not defending his title. When did he? I can't remember when he won it. Did he win it back at WrestleMania? Yeah, he won it back at WrestleMania. So yeah, Samoa Joe's the longest reigning champion in WWE. Pretty much everyone has been crowned at WrestleMania or Daniel Bryan and Rowan since. Crazy. So with that in mind, I think that's the title most likely to change. So I've gone with a bit of a curveball and picked Rey Mysterio. The game went safe and picked Samoa Joe. We'll find out who's right. But I just want to cover one more thing, which is I've been wondering for a while, in a hypothetical situation. I haven't put any actual real money into it, and I'm not encouraging gambling by any stretch of the imagination. But I've just always been curious, because I always do predictions for WWE. I've looked at the betting odds, and I'm curious if I hypothetically put some money into this, would I have won anything? So we'll find that out obviously after the pay-per-view during the review. But at the moment, my odds, Daniel Bryan and Rowan winning is 2 to 5. I don't know how betting really works, so people will be like, what a noob, he doesn't know how to explain, but it's 2/5, so it's, if it's 4/1, it's 4 to 1 odds, so I call that 2 to 5 odds. As in, if I put £5 on, then I would get my and they win, I would get my £5 back and an extra £2. That's my understanding of it. So that's 2 to 5. Tony Nese is 1 to 6. He's like the most likely to retain his title out of everyone, which is pretty crazy. They're that sure. Rey is 7 to 4 to win the title, so it's not crazy unlikely. It's shorter odds than 2 to 1. Joe is 2 to 5 to retain, incidentally, so I'm definitely picking the outsider there. Drew is, I think, actually the favourite to win the men's Money in the Bank at 8 to 11. Bayley was joint favourite with Mandy Rose, actually, at 2 to 1 to win the women's Money in the Bank, so I picked the favourites for the Money in the Bank matches. Becky Lynch is 1-5, so almost as likely as Tony Nese to retain the Raw Women's Championship. Miz is 1-5 to win his match with Shane. Roman's 2-7 to beat Elias. Kofi's 1-2 to retain the WWE title. Seth's 2-9 to retain the Universal title. They've got no faith in AJ winning that title at all. And Becky Lynch against Charlotte is 4-7 to retain, so a lot less conclusive than her 1-5 odds against Lacey Evans. I couldn't find... I mean, I didn't exactly spend hours trawling for this. I just looked on one betting website. I'm going to stick to the same betting website as well, so the odds are always consistent. But I'm going to try and make this a new feature of my predictions and reviews. Could I theoretically make money predicting WWE? So, what I was going to say, yeah, I couldn't find any odds of a cash-in taking place. I couldn't find any odds of within the world title, men's world title pictures. And there's these odds of a cash-in taking place or whatever. Maybe those odds become a thing once the Money in the Bank holder is cemented, so at the next pay-per-view. I don't know. But, yeah, so I will be covering in the review tomorrow what I thought of the show. I'll also be covering who won between me and 2K19. And I'll be covering whether I turned a profit in my hypothetical betting. I'm not putting bets on. I don't encourage you to either, unless that's what you want to do with your money, but I'm not promoting it at all. I'm just saying, in a hypothetical situation, I wonder if I would win any money. So, let me know in the comment section down below who you think is going to win each match, what you agree with that I said, what you disagree with that I said, what about the games predictions you agree and disagree with. Let me know all that good stuff. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, because then you will get to hear the review tomorrow and hear how I did in my various little competitions against the bookies and against 2K19. And share with your friends if you think they would enjoy. Also, don't forget to drop a like on the video, because it's much appreciated. It's great to get some, even just a one-click positive feedback is great, but comments, even better. But for now, all I have left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been Ibeza, you've been amazing, and I will see you next time.